I'm Stephanie, and this is the Yacht Club. Yacht is yoga-based occupational therapy. I'm an occupational therapist and also a certified yoga instructor, and I want to provide some online flows that are more accessible to a wider range of folks. So today, the flow is going to be geared towards those with standard spinal precautions. So this is after surgery, your doctor's told you have spinal precautions. That means no bending past 90 degrees and no twisting, as well as no lifting, but we don't usually do that here. So this flow, though, could be done by anyone who's looking for a little bit of strength building, balance. It's going to be standing with a chair for support, and we're just going to be doing some shoulder opening, some hip strengthening, but keeping in mind that we won't be twisting or bending at the hips. So join me with maybe a chair for support. I'm going to start just facing you without holding onto the chair, but you're welcome to hold on during this initial sequence. So we're going to find mountain pose first. So I want you to come to standing, maybe rock side to side between your feet. And then lift up all 10 toes and put them back down on the ground. Maybe start rocking forward and backward. And find where your center is. Once you've found a sort of neutral center place between side to side and forward and back, really root down through your feet and feel like from all that stability you can get a little taller. So you're reaching up from the crown of your head, reaching towards the ceiling. And we're not letting the rib cage splay forward here. We're keeping everything tucked in, strong core. Maybe even imagine lifting up through your low belly, keeping your shoulders broad. Then just start to notice your breath here. Notice if any part of your body moves as you breathe. Or is your rib cage moving, or your belly, or your shoulders? Then maybe try to tack those shoulders down if you notice them moving up and down a lot. And let the breath happen here in your midsection. Letting your inhales expand your abdomen and your lower rib cage, and as you exhale, it's going to knit back together. As you inhale, imagine you could grow a little taller. And exhale, stay really grounded. Let's find a little shoulder mobility here. Inhale, this time let your shoulders come up towards your ears. And exhale, let them come down and away from each other. Inhale up. Exhale, down and apart. One more time, inhale up. Exhale, down and apart. Then bring your hands together in front of your face and begin to start drawing your elbows toward one another. They may not touch, that's okay. But make sure your abdomen stays knit together here. So we don't want to do anything too wild with the hips or the rib cage, everything staying neutral. So draw those elbows together. As you inhale, spread your elbows apart, make some space in your rib cage. Exhale, like there's magnets between your elbows, draw them back together. And just notice what's happening on your shoulder blades as they glide across your back. Inhale, spread open. Exhale, draw together. Inhale, spread open. Exhale, draw them back together. And then let your arms come down to your side. And we're going to begin to raise your arms up and out. So on your inhale, raise your arms up to about 90 degrees. And exhale back down. Inhale up. Exhale down. And big inhale up. Feel your shoulder blades rotating, allowing your shoulders to move up and out. And exhale back down. Bring your arms up. Palms facing down. Stand really tall so your core is really supporting you to stand upright here so your arms aren't knocking you off balance. Inhale, draw your elbows back, squeeze your shoulder blades together. Exhale, reach forward. Inhale, pull back. Exhale, reach. Inhale, pull back. Exhale, let those arms float back forward and back down to your side. And let's warm up the neck a little bit too. So begin to turn your head as far right and left as you can. Obviously, if you have cervical spinal precautions, do not do this one. We're just turning the head side to side, just gently. Go nice and slow. Come back to the center, and then let your ear drop towards one shoulder. And gently come back up and let your ear fall towards the other side. Feel the gentle pull of gravity of your ear down to your shoulder. We're not forcing anything here. Last time, side to side. Let your breath be slow and steady. And come back up to neutral. So now we're going to find some mobility, and this is the part where if you weren't holding onto a chair, I'd really like for you to hold on with one hand to a chair for support. And here we're going to find warrior one. So start with your feet together in mountain pose, and then let one foot step back, maybe 2 feet. And you might want to walk your foot a little bit wider so that your feet are parallel and not on a tightrope. And then let your back heel really ground down into the earth. So your back toes are going to be about 45 degrees out. Your toes are going to point to the top corner of your yoga mat if you have one. Then begin to bend your front knee. So you'll find a deep stretch in your back leg, still lifting through your low abdomen, and just beginning to sink down into that front knee. So back stays really nice and tall, straight upright, reaching up through the top of your head, but maybe letting that knee sink a little bit more. Then as you're here, your front hip is going to draw back, and your back hip's going to draw forward so that your hip bones are pointing straight ahead. No rotation here. You may like to pulse in and out of this pose, gently bending the knee and straightening it out. If you're feeling very steady, you can reach your outside arm forward or up overhead. But just check in, make sure that rib cage stays knit down and your head's still reaching tall. Then reconnect with your breath here. So even though this is a challenging posture, your breath stays smooth and steady. If your breath is labored and difficult, then we need to pull back a little bit. We're working too much. In yoga, we're looking for the balance between effort and ease. So you want to be able to maintain that slow, easy breath throughout the whole practice. Then if your arm was raised, let it draw back down to your side and straighten your front foot, your front knee. Check back in with your hips, make sure they're both pointing forward. And this here is pyramid pose. So traditionally we'd bend farther forward here, but since we're not going to bend our backs, we can maybe just find a straight angle, letting there be a long line from your back foot all the way out the top of your head. And on this one, go ahead and reach your arm out and back, the same angle as your spine. Notice the stretch in your legs, and just work to maintain that steady neutral hip. So your back hip draws forward and your front hip draws back. And breathe here. And stand back up nice and tall, step those feet together, and we'll turn and face the other way. So step your opposite foot forward and begin to find warrior one. So bend that front knee, sink into the pose. Let the back hip draw forward and the front hip draw back. And maybe you're pulsing in and out of this pose. And when you feel ready, you can bend it, keep it bent. And don't forget to breathe here. Lengthen out through the top of your head. And maybe your outside arm reaches forward or up overhead. And your breath is deep, but your spine stays nice and straight. Your core muscles are doing a lot of the work here to hold your body upright. Notice if you feel any tension or torque on your back, you can always bring the arm back down or come back out of the pose a little bit. Then begin to straighten your front leg. Find your balance here. Let the front hip draw back and the back hip draws forward. Maybe you find a small tilt so that your back is lining up with the angle of your back leg. And reconnect with your core. Find a lot of length coming up and out through the top of your head. And this time the outside arm reaches back behind you. I want you to feel like the back of your neck is really long here. There's no wrinkles in it. And your breath is easy. And straighten back up, step those legs back together. Now I'm going to move my chair, but you can just turn. So I just want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So now we're going to find warrior two and side angle pose. So you're going to place one hand on the chair, have one set of toes facing your chair, and your other foot is going to step out. So torso is still straight, but your one hip is externally rotated now. And find what a comfortable distance is for you between your feet, where you feel stable. The wider you go, the deeper of a lunge you can get. So maybe you start with one hand on your low belly so that you can feel that you're the kind of angle of your hips and make sure that your spine is staying straight. And begin to bend that knee towards the chair. So maybe the same way we did in warrior one, in warrior two, maybe you find some pulsing in and out. And then when you feel ready, lean into that lunge. Sink into your warrior two. And your arm that's not holding onto the chair, if you're feeling steady, maybe it reaches out to the side. You're finding a nice spread across your chest. Shoulder blades are drawing together. And you can turn your gaze towards the hand that's on the chair. And you're breathing here. Letting your head be tall. And take a moment to straighten that front knee just to give your quads a break. When you feel ready, let's sink into it one more time. Let your spine follow the angle of your back leg. So it's a small tilt. And we're reaching the outside arm up and out for side angle pose. So it's very gentle. We're not really, the spine itself is straight here. It's just changing the angle a little bit. And breathe. Maybe your head could turn up towards the ceiling. Feeling a big spread across your chest Your shoulder blades continue to draw together in the back. And then reach through your fingertips, stand back up, straighten that leg that was bent, and turn your toes in, step them together. And then we'll come to the other side. You can just turn around. I'm going to move my chair. So opposite toes are facing the chair. You can step your legs as wide as you feel comfortable. One hand is on the chair for balance, and begin to bend that knee. Now don't bend it so much that your knees go over your toes. So your knees should always be behind your toes. Maybe pulse in and out a few times. Always keeping that spine straight. And when you feel ready, you can maintain a bend in that knee. And just notice how all the work is happening in your hips and in your core. So your strong legs are supporting you, and your core is lifting to hold your rib cage in. If you feel steady, bring that one hand out to the side, and your gaze can turn to look at the chair. Shoulder blades draw together. Breath is easy. Maybe begin to lighten the weight that you have through your hand on the chair. Maybe you let it float a little bit. And straighten your front leg. You can let your arm take a small rest. Deep breath here. Then bend once again. Let your back follow the angle of your back leg. So we have a long line, staying straight, and then reach your arm up. So we have side angle pose here. Just tilting the angle a little bit. Your spine is staying nice and long. Your breath is smooth and easy. Reach through your fingertips, stand back up, and step those feet back together. With one hand support on your chair, we're going to find chair pose. So in this pose, the only thing that's bending are your knees and your hips. So your back is staying really long and straight. Then you're going to begin to sink your hips backwards like you're sitting down into a chair. So your weight is going to be in your heels. So your knees start to bend and your hips start to drop back. Now with spinal precautions, we can't go quite as deep in this pose. So you just want to maybe stay in like a quarter squat. And feel that long line of energy, that your back is straight and strong. Your core is knit in and together. Your torso is one long unit. And maybe if you're feeling steady, you can reach your hand forward out in front of you. Or it could reach back behind you. Nice, steady, deep breath here. And begin to straighten those legs. You can shake it out if you need to. Next, we're going to explore a little balance. So hold on to your chair with one hand and come back to that little weight shift we started with. So pay attention to how it feels to shift your weight from one foot to the other. Notice what happens in your hips and the amount of pressure you have in one foot. Then shift all your weight over to the leg that's closer to the chair and begin to lift up your other leg like you've got a little kickstand. You can rise up to your toes. And notice how this feels, how most of your weight's shifted over to the standing leg. Maybe your floating leg could start to turn out and maybe your heel props against your shin. And you get even taller. Find a spot on the wall that's not moving that you can look at. That's going to help a lot with your balance. Then maybe begin to lift your leg up a little bit more so it's totally off the ground. I like to keep a little small bend in my standing leg so I'm not locking out my knee. Now you may have seen this pose before where people are turned all the way out. There's no need to do that. You can sort of keep your knee at a 45-degree angle And just emphasize the balance part. So your foot's going to be pushing against your leg. There's equal force going from one leg to the other. And your core is stabilizing your whole spine. And you're finding that same smooth, easy breath here, even though this is really challenging. If you're feeling awesome here, maybe you bring your hand forward or up overhead. Maybe it's out in a Y shape. Maybe you have one hand over your heart. If you're looking for an extra balance challenge, you could try letting your eyes come to close here. Then when you're ready, you can gently lift your leg off and shift your weight back into both feet. And let's come to the other side. So rock side to side. And gently let your toes rise up, almost like that leg could float. So you're so stable through the rest of your body that your leg could even float into the air. As you're ready, you can bring your heel to your shin. Find a lot of stability here and a lot of length. Then maybe you bring your foot up to your calf and explore some balance. You can play with the arms, maybe play with closing your eyes. Always lifting from the low belly and knitting those ribs back down and in. Let your breath be smooth and easy. And always keep that steady gaze. If your arms are getting tired, you're welcome to bring them down to your hip. And gently release that leg. Shift onto the floor with both feet. Maybe rock it out side to side. And leave your legs with a little bit of space between them so you feel really steady. And let's end here with a few really deep, really beautiful cleansing breaths. If you feel comfortable doing so, you can bring both hands off the chair to take a deep breath in, reach your arms out and up. And exhale back down, maybe cross them in the front. Inhale up. Exhale down. You could even let your knees bend a little bit. Deep inhale. And exhale it all out. And gently step your feet back together. Thank you for taking time to practice with me. I wish you well in your recovery and keep coming back to practice more. Namaste.